So, Electronic Arts, the once and forever nemesis of gamers everywhere, continues rolling out their in-house proprietary DRM scheme. Now, it's actually a anti-cheat scheme, but this level of kernel malware under the guise of preventing players from cheating in like FIFA 23 or whatever, it's wrong, it's unethical. And given that this malware lives at the kernel level, it only supports Windows. This spells disaster for any Steam Deck gamer who likes playing EA games online. This is an issue because, well, Proton doesn't have a Windows kernel that EA's parasitic supervisor can sink its teeth into. Instead, Proton translates Windows kernel calls to Linux system calls. In most instances, for user space applications like games, for example, these translated calls are close enough. But like I said, there really isn't a Windows kernel space on Linux that Anticheat can operate in. And that's one of the main reasons that Anticheat poses such a problem for Linux gamers, people who are playing on the Steam Deck or on desktop Ubuntu or something. Unless a game ships support for a modern Linux native anti-cheat implementation or a way to like launch the game without anti-cheat enabled, most online games are simply not going to work on Linux. Now, there are resources that you can use to look up if a game supports anti-cheat on Linux or not. areweanticheat.com tracks anti-cheat support status for over 250 very popular multiplayer games. And this site is invaluable for any of us Steam Deck or Linux gamers who want to play their favorite multiplayer games on their favorite platform. The question is, will EA's in-house solution receive native Linux support? At the moment, I really don't see that happening. I mean, Electronic Arts has been conspicuously absent when it comes to Linux. Besides Respawn specifically enabling Linux support for Apex Legends, I can't think of another EA studio doing anything for Linux gamers, unless it meant to screw them over. If I'm wrong, and I might be, leave me a comment. I'd like to hear other ways that EA studios have supported Linux in the past. But there are a few things that I think can be done here, and the first is education. Gamers should be informed about the risks of kernel-level access for any program, no matter what it does. Kernel-level access is dangerous, especially in Windows implementation. Kernel mode applications share a single address space, and this means that any application can access any other. This includes drivers and the OS itself. A poorly written kernel mode app can not only alter the behavior of a driver or cause hardware malfunctions in other devices, but they can also corrupt the operating system itself. This can result in blue screens of death, this can corrupt system or personal files, and more. Beyond that, though, it's also a huge vulnerability, and the video game industry doesn't have the best or even a passable reputation for operational security. With Electronic Arts in particular, we've seen a questionable track record for both code reliability and security. Giving them kernel access to your PC where their unauditable code has a blank check to access any information on your PC, and that information includes encryption keys, decrypted information in memory, login credentials, session cookies. Any reasonable person, no matter whether you trust EA or not, should refuse to have this kind of driver or application on your system. Even if you trust EA's promises that they're only going to use this code for anti-cheat purposes, their track record isn't great. A malicious third party with a zero-day exploit for EA's anti-cheat could cause absolute havoc. And I mean, the thing is, not even Steam is safe from these kind of exploits. I mean, in 2020, security researchers found 4 vulnerabilities in Steam's networking code that could allow hackers to control a victim's PC and impersonate them. While these vulnerabilities were discovered and disclosed responsibly by reputable security researchers, the likelihood of zero-day exploits being found and exploited by malicious entities is real. The thing is, Steam doesn't operate at the kernel level, but the EA anti-cheat does. That makes it an even more enticing target. Now, given what we know, kernel space anti-cheat should be a non-starter for any reasonable person or responsible gamer. When this unethical burden is foisted upon gamers, we should be aware of it. We should be spreading the message, educating people, and vocally opposing these measures as loudly as possible. Now, I'm not saying that EA has no right to prevent cheating in competitive online games. In fact, they have an obligation to deliver to their online players experiences that are both fun and fair. But kernel mode anti-cheat is not the way to do this. Unless there is one alternative, one way that I think kernel mode anti-cheat could be okay. Valve could use this opportunity to expand the capabilities of Proton and develop a Windows kernel mode sandbox. Now, I have no idea if this is even technically possible, so I'm soliciting some feedback here. If it's even possible, a Windows kernel sandbox would have kernel mode access only to the Proton prefix that the game is running in. It would only be relative to that instance of Proton, and it would have no real privileges over the Linux operating system. Now, this might start bordering on containerization and even virtualization, and that might be where this falls apart. But if that were the case, if Valve could erect partitions around a virtualized Windows-like system, then kernel mode anti-cheat wouldn't have access to anything outside the virtual kernel, and in that instance, it would be fine in my book. I would love to see something like that, mostly because I'm a nerd and I love the idea of virtualization to begin with. Again, I have no idea if it's possible, but it would be hella cool. If Valve could come up with an open source alternative to the Linux kernel and Proton could be put into a containerized or even a virtualization mode, I would be so game for that. But I'd like to know what you think. Leave me a comment and let me know. If you think that a virtualized Proton would be awesome, I'd love to hear it. Sound off in the comments. Now, there's also the chance that you are enjoying the work that I'm doing here. If that is something that you're enjoying, if you like these videos, you know what to do. You can like that smash button. You can get subscribed to stay up to date with all my latest videos. I'm trying to do 3 videos a week now as a minimum, so make sure that you check back here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I think that's going to do it for now, though. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time.